How serious a good student can be in a fight. First he got up from his seat without saying a word, holding a pen, and then looked around the room. He made sure there were 3 people to fight. According to Newton's second law, the acceleration of an object is proportional to the force acting on it, is inversely proportional to the mass of the object. You can use the centrifugal force of an object to cause the object to have a greater impact. Step 2. When no one is looking, use the pen to kill another person. Deprive the target of his vision and put him under psychological pressure. Finally, you don't give the target a chance to catch his breath and hit him with a series of strikes. The whole thing is done in one go.
내가 부탁했잖아. 그만하라고.
His name is Jack. A few days ago he was a good, unassuming student. He was the first one to arrive in class every day. There was no room for anything but study. He ate and memorized words, walked and calculated root formulas. Even on his lunch break, he studied history. Jack was a transparent person in the classroom. He had no friends. No one would talk to him. He's also very unfit. If he hadn't had an accident in the last 3 years, he could have easily gotten into a master's college. But accidents happen all of a sudden. Jack won a gold medal in a maths competition with a first-place finish. Alan, the class bully, won a bronze medal. He jealous of Jack's better grades than his own. Alan started to blatantly provoke Jack. He threw a slipper at Jack. He and a few of his followers mocked Jack for being a nerd who only studied. Jack ignored him too. He told Alan to watch his back next time, but Alan provoked him by saying he was careless. What did he need to watch out for? And Jack seemed to have read Alan's mind. He urged Alan that if he had time to pick on him he might as well memorize a few more words. Just as tensions were rising, a group of sports students burst in. The captain in the lead said that his girlfriend had been stolen by Tom and that he was coming after him. Tom was confused. Tom looked like he didn't care. The captain was furious. He told his mates to do something about it. But what he didn't know was that Tom is a former professional fighter. Steps back to warm up, dodges a baseball bat to the head, gets his bearings and avoids a left overhand punch, then low and sideways. A left hook takes out 3 men. The captain looks angry and goes in himself. Tom grabbed his ear and begged for mercy after 2 blows. He said, "I've lost. I've lost." In order to save face in front of his partners, the captain swung his hand around when Tom wasn't looking. He threw his baseball bat at Tom. Tom dodged it, but it pissed him off. At this point, the captain still rushed towards Tom. He was knocked down by a punch from Tom. After collecting the men, Tom saw Jack staring at him. When he realized that he had knocked over his pencil bag, Tom picks up the pencil bag and apologizes politely, only to be met with a cold reply. "This is a classroom. Why are you fighting?" The next day Jack's tracksuit was missing. It went without saying that Alan had done it. Jack may be an academic, but his physical fitness was very poor. He was always at the bottom of the class in the 800m. When he saw his classmates laughing at Jack, Tom threw his slipper at him in the face of absolute force. The boys who had just been arrogant were instantly restrained. After class, Jack walked up to Alan. He said to Alan with a blank face, "Stop it, do me a favor." And Alan looked at Jack with a puzzled look on his face. Jack said not to interfere with his studies. The assemblyman didn't give Jack a second thought. Alan's partner turned around and grabbed Jack by the neck and forced him to apologize, but Jack wouldn't look down. Luckily, the teacher arrived just in time to prevent the fight from escalating, but the conflict had been created. Alan was determined to make things difficult for Jack. What's the most effective way to beat a man? It's by attacking the things he cares about most. For Jack, it was learning. So he forces a weak transfer student to put this little piece of paper on Jack during an exam. The transfer student was too scared to do it, but the transfer student gave in to Alan's threatening stare. The transfer student explained that there was a bug on the back of Jack's neck because the exam was still on. Jack didn't take it personally, but strangely, his concentration began to lapse. His whole body was weak. His body was sweating like crazy. He became dizzy. Jack rushed to the toilet to try and calm himself with water. Then Jack felt a small tablet around his neck. He realized that he had been drugged. To stay awake, he suddenly slapped himself furiously in the face, one after the other. The force became heavier and heavier. The teacher and classmates looked on in collective disbelief. Jack's grades suffered as a result. He took one look at the transfer student and then turned to the man behind it. Without giving Alan a chance to fight back, Jack beat him up. Jack was furious. Just as he was about to make a big mistake, Tom stepped in just in time. Tom told Jack, "Don't go overboard," but instead of accepting Tom's kind offer, Jack, with his hatred in the air, instead, he just went on a rampage. All Jack wants to do is study in peace, but he is repeatedly pushed to the limit by bad students. He was drugged and failed his exams. Jack finally relented and beat the man straight into the hospital. Bad student's mother points at Jack's nose in hospital, but Jack didn't panic. He took out the pills. He said that Alan had instructed someone to put it on his neck. When Alan refused to admit it, Jack calmly poured a bunch of hallucinogenic drugs out of his school bag. Now the evidence was overwhelming. Alan's mother was left speechless. He agreed to transfer to another school so as not to make a big deal out of it, but Alan didn't see it that way. He blamed Jack for everything. Sure enough, the next day, two of Alan's mates approached Jack. The students arrogantly told Jack that they wanted to see him after class, but Jack didn't panic. Straight away he said, "Let's do it now." Jack took the two to the toilet. Then he closed the door and cut off the students who were watching. Then Jack pulled out a biro because the punk had been stabbed by the sport yesterday. So just by repeating the action of pressing them, the other guy will be able to trigger an instinctive reflex. Jack looked at the two men while pressing the ballpoint pen in his hand.
말하자. 붙어있다.
The two men were so intimidated by Jack's presence that they didn't dare say a word. Seeing Jack emerge from the toilet unharmed, the students looked on in disbelief, but Jack said coldly,
나 알아? 나랑 친해?
"And do you know me well?" He went back to his seat as if nothing had happened. Only the slight tremor in his right hand showed that Jack was not at peace with himself. After that, Jack's life was finally back to normal. He was still the first one to arrive in class, except for Tom, who slept straight into class after finishing his shift every day. At the end of class, Jerry, a transfer student, called out to Jack curtly, but before he could say anything, Jack turned him down. Jack said, "You don't have to be nice to me, and I don't want to accept your apology." On the way home, Alan came with a socialite looking for trouble. He still couldn't get over it. He stopped Jack, and he said to Jack, "I don't have a grudge against you, but this is a deal. I hope you understand." He then slapped Jack across the face. Then they took Jack away in front of everyone. Jerry knew something was wrong. He rushed to the classroom and woke Tom up to ask him to help. He didn't expect Tom to intervene. It was time for his part-time job. The transfer student offered twice the money for the part-time job. Tom readily agreed and followed Jerry. On the other side, Jack was cornered. There were 5 of them on the other side. He quickly analyzed the situation. The 3 on the left needed to be subdued quickly. The 2 on the right could be dealt with later by reflex action. The most important thing is to take care of the big guy first. Jack fakes the big man down. Then he uses sand to quickly block the sight of the 3 on the left. Then he quickly took them out one by one. As expected, the 2 on the right just stood and watched. Just as he's about to leave, Big Brother walks in and slams Jack. Alan saw that Jack was on the back foot and came in to take it out on him. A kick to the face wasn't enough and he had to take out Jack's hand. Just then Tom arrived in time to take out the 2 men with a flourish. The tall man saw his brother's lack of talent. He rushes up and attacks Tom. Tom had the big man under control after a fight. The wounded Jack was attacked by Alan and a few of his boys. Seeing that Alan had picked up a bottle and was about to hit Jack on the head, Tom tries to stop him, but it's too late. In the nick of time, Jerry, a weak transfer student, suddenly rushes over and knocks Alan down. Tom said to Alan, "Aren't you all ashamed of yourselves for attacking one man? Hey, he's trying to eat, so you should hurry up. If it were me, I'd be embarrassed. I'd be ashamed if it was me." It's a bit of a victory to be beating up a man with a weapon. The big tall guy on the side also felt embarrassed. He let them go. The fight was delayed because the big guy didn't get a call from the boss Kenny. He looked at his men who had gone looking for trouble and had their faces painted. The boss was angry. He punched the big guy in the stomach. Then he threw him down on the table. Jack is challenged 3 times by bad students. Finally, he can't take it anymore and beat him up in the hospital. But the bad student didn't stop there. He calls on the big brother to take revenge. With the help of his classmates, Jack escaped from the beating. That day, Alan found Jack. He got down on his knees and begged Jack to forgive him. He begged him to put in a good word with his lawyer. Alan begged Jack to forgive him or he would go to juvenile hall. Although the man should not be forgiven, but Jack didn't want to ruin a man's career, and he didn't want to have anything to do with him. The 3 men then followed Alan to his lawyer. Instead, Alan took them to a gangster. It's true that dogs can't change their ways. The gangster started to spout off. He said they had broken Big Tall's hand last time. He threatened to give them $15 million in 3 days to pay for his medical bills. But Tom said he hadn't hit the tall man's arm. I don't know why his arm was in a cast, but the leader of the gang said that Tom had broken his arm. Jack also asked if you had any proof. In fact, everyone in the room knew it. The tall man's arm was broken by a gangster. The leader threatened Tom and gave him only 3 days. Then he cut Tom's arm. They thought it was just a simple threat. The next day, the gangsters were at the school gates with their men, as the deadline had not been met. The gangsters didn't do anything but send someone to follow the 3 men. Soon 3 days later the deadline was up. After school, Jerry took the 2 men to the lab. Then he took a wad of money out of his school bag. He said he could solve the problem perfectly. Tom asked where the money had come from. Jerry stammered about stealing his dad's watch and selling it for money. But Tom said he didn't need to give them the money. He could just call the police. He also told Jerry to bring the money back and get the watch back. Jack agrees with the suggestion to call the police, and he was prepared. After some investigation, the gangster's name was Kenny. Not only was he a social scumbag, he was also a drug dealer and a private loan shark. Most of the gangster's target users are students. He uses online games to lure his targets in. Free money if you join. At the beginning, the ending system keeps letting you win money when you get a taste of it. The target user will add to the stakes and gradually sink deeper and deeper into the mire. He went down the path of borrowing from loan sharks, as the website is registered in a foreign country, so the police didn't work either. The gangsters also have a group of young misfits with them in order to control them. The gangsters opened illegal trading accounts in the names of these people. This girl was one of them. She was trying to get out of the gangsters' way. She told Jack everything. As soon as Jack took the police to the den, he was able to catch them all. With an initial plan in place, the 3 of them started to move. Tom pretended to join the gang and stall Kenny. Once they'd confirmed the location, they called the police. The plan started well. Tom managed to follow them to the den. But it was during the negotiations that something unexpected happened. Tom was too young to face the experienced scum of society. Tom was still too young. He made a mistake. He was attacked from behind. Then the gangster finds out about Jack's plan on his mobile phone. He ran off with the evidence and the money. By the time Jack arrived with the police, the place was empty. He knew someone was behind it. To find the traitor, he handed over the rest of his men to one place. The girl also gave Jack the location, asking him to call the police. Just as the gangster was about to stab someone, Jack arrived just in time. Jack said the police were coming. He would also search the car you had hidden down there. Before he could say anything else, the sound of a police car was heard. The mob rushed to get their men out. Jack also untied Tom and the others. But before they could let their guard down, the gangsters came back again. The police car didn't come. Jack played a siren on his mobile phone and hid it in the bushes. A standoff ensues. The gangster pulled out a knife and stabbed Jack in the face. He really wanted to kill Jack. At the same time, a gunshot interrupts the melee. The gangster saw what was happening. He pushes his partner out to block the shot. He took advantage of the chaos and fled. Jack took stock of the situation and went after him. If he let the gangsters get away now, his life would not be easy. The only way to put an end to this was to take him to the police. But he had underestimated the gangster. He was knocked out in 2 blows. Good thing Tom caught up with him. Despite his lack of experience and strength, the 2 men worked together perfectly. Tom was the bait and Jack was the winner. In the end, he was able to take out the punk. In the end, justice prevailed and the punk was arrested. Tom was temporarily hospitalized with a broken hand. The girl was freed from the gangster's grasp, and to apologize to Tom, he bought the beef backbone soup he wanted to eat. Tom looked at Jack with a surprised look on his face. He said to Jack, "You're so warm." Jack smiled back at Tom's words. Jack, who had been on edge all this time, finally a smile of relief. It was the only time in the play that Jack smiled from the bottom of his heart. He has been studying so hard to meet his parents' expectations, but the reality is that he can't even achieve this little wish because his classmates are jealous. Jack is drawn into the inevitable violence over and over again, although it's not his fault. The succession of events leads to Jack's eventual rage and loss of everything. Some things can change a life. I hope everyone doesn't turn a blind eye.